Welcome to Emergence with Elira, where we explore the fusion of embodied spirituality, psychology, energetics, self-leadership, and heart-based entrepreneurship. I'm Elira Tichkuti, your guide on this journey into unfolding new social purpose and humanity-driven business paradigm and our own emergence through that. I want to talk about how to build our life, ourselves, and a meaningful body of work that truly resonates with our essence, our integrity, capacity, and extrasensory sensitive nature, while redefining success in today's world. Hello, beauties. It's been a while till I had capacity and I had space to hop in this precious space for me to share my thoughts, my journey of emergence in these times, emergence into leadership, emergence in our capacity, emergence of navigating our potential and staying with an open heart through these crazy times as well. And this is exactly what I want to talk today. And this is a little bit personal story. Not a little bit, it's a lot of personal story that I want to share. I was contemplating it and I just felt I need to give you a background. I need to give you the context of the fears and thoughts and insights that I came up. And the story starts with my recent, very intense interdimensional attacks. And I use that word interdimensional attacks from Oracle Girl. She's calling like that. If you don't know who she is, check her website, oraclegirl.org. And I also did my own experience sharing on my mini capacity retreat, 3 days, where I share all kind of negative energies, infiltration and attack. How does it show up to the detail? And how to deal with that. So I'm very familiar with this topic. It's, if you want to get that, it's donation based. It's called Extrasensory Heart, because this is where you have to deal with these energies in your extrasensory heart. And this is also a little bit the topic today. I had very intense, overload of very dense energies, and it felt so heavy on my chest and it felt so heavy on all my body. At certain point it felt like someone is throwing acidity on my eyes. My eyes started become itchy, started become very confused, and I also was flipping between dimensions. I'm here, but then I'm pulled somewhere else. It was so hard to stay. It was like I am circling around here between those dimensions. And also for me, it's very practical sign to know this is negative energies attacking me or infiltrating or trying to kick me out of the core. I don't know fully what is always their agenda, but I was a target when suddenly all my internet disappeared out of the blue, from my computer, from my phone, everywhere. It's like nothing is working. And I had issues even to turn on the computer. And usually this is the sign. This technology starts to be wobbly. Also finances, the money starts to be wobbly. And this is where I started to get attacks as well. The spam kind of company started to try to deduct from my credit card, and I had to contact the bank and we had to freeze my main card. My packages got in customs stuck there, and I was charged massive VAT. It's against any rule, so I'm now fighting that back. And then suddenly government decided to do legislation for the work permit that I have to get, and I have to pay extra money to all kind of taxes, and money started to slip through my fingers. Everyone started to attack my money, and that's another sign of interdimensional attack. Suddenly all financial institutions starts to be wobbly, starts to like be abusive. Cards don't work. And I started to have like weird encounters. I started to have like weird smells in my house, like out of the blue. It was like so obvious, so intense, and it was so dense that I had to take a nap a few times. And the good thing, because I know what's going on, I just took it slower, and I every time I chose to stay centered, because agenda is to kick you out of your core, kick you out of your center into the fear. And I've been attacked like this many times, and of course my body is really very sensitive, so it's really hard on my body. But I already know how to deal with that. So I was like, no, I just slow down and I don't get it under my skin. Like you can, it's inconvenient to deal with this and that, and it's okay. I will stay in my peace. I will stay in my love, in my focus, in my care. And I think that shifted. And at a certain point, I could feel something heavy just left, like a dark cloud just left my room. But what worse happened, and why I'm sharing this story, something I didn't expect. But those negative energies always trying to find a hook. If it's not through you and through your vulnerability and somewhere you maybe have fear, then they through your immediate closest relationships. And in this case, what happened literally the moment this dark cloud left, that density, that acidity, that weird smells left, and that heaviness on my chest, literally like not even 1 hour later, my youngest kitten, Layla, started to throw up. And then it went like a matter of hours when it went from bad to worse. And then she started to vomit, and it started to like go on like intensely. And I know this is very dangerous. She's under 1 year old yet. So I immediately took her in the emergency room. And it turned out she had a very high fever. We did ultrasound, and all her intestines, the stomach, the pancreas, everything was with inflammation, with big inflammation. And I'm still feeling very emotional sharing this, but this is the most important part, because this is where they got the hook on me. This was my vulnerability. And the vet took Layla in the emergency room for all day because they had to monitor her and to see what's happening, what's going on, because we had no clue at that time. And that was the first time I had to give my baby for emergency care, intensive care for all day. And I had to sign the papers of, can we do CPR, that if she dies, that we can bring her back. And this is where it hit me like, oh my goodness, this is so serious and possibly deadly. I don't know, like what's going on. And sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I tried to wait, but then I know when I wait too long, and then I never share. So I left her, and all day I was in a little bit freeze because I knew this was the negative energies that infiltrated her and her pure little body, who was still recovering from recent viruses that she had and operation she had. So she was a little bit vulnerable, and it was just too much for her to bear, and she got intoxicated. And If you are interested in these kind of profound and insightful conversations, if you feel like you would benefit from powerful, deep, luxurious support in your process of expansion and claiming deeper self-leadership capacity in all areas of your life, and especially in your business, I want to invite you to my exclusive non-conventional signature program called The Rise Voice. It's deep dive journey of your becoming and claiming your true potential and practical embodiment of it in a small group of people for 6 or 9 months period. At the moment, new group starts end of October, and there are only 3 spots left, and you can find the link in the description of this podcast, or you just can reach out to me via email or my Telegram channel. This is a very special sanctuary I created, pouring all of me and all the wisdom I gained through my own embodiment journey, so you can rise, claim your voice, and find an access point to the sanctuary of your very own. But she is a fighter. She's so full of life. She represents in her frequency is literally the beauty, the feminine grace, the delight, the ease, the gentleness, the innocence. It's just hit me so hard that, my babies have to go through this. And thankfully, she's getting better now and she's recovering very fast. I could take her home in the evening so she didn't have to spend night alone in this vet clinic. And they managed to stabilize her pretty fast, pretty strong. It turns out she has very intense coronavirus, and coronavirus is not the same for the animals, for the cats, as for humans, so it's not related. And she still has parvovirus that we kind of recovered, but it's still in the background, buzzing in her system and affecting the immunity. And her white blood cells were scary low. And that gave us a huge risk that she may have FIP, which is deadly virus for the cats. It's one of the most dangerous virus for the cats. And coronavirus can mutate to that deadly virus. And we had to do antibiotics. We had to do massive protocol to bring her back to stability and help her immunity, probiotics, and stabilize her, like her puking and diarrhea. And so she has some, internal stability. And why I'm sharing this story is what this story taught me. So at a certain point, I noticed like I'm so numbed out. I'm so autopilot. And I know when I'm like that, it's already like I'm in a massive freeze response. So when I could breathe out and have a moment when, she was home and I had all the medicine I need and she was sleeping, I took a moment to breathe out and let myself to feel the feels, but also to contemplate this experience. And instantly I could feel the massive guilt because the thought came through almost like I felt guilty they chose to be with me. They chose me as a mama bear, as their family. And my life is intense. Like I have to deal with energies that not everyone has to deal in such intensity. And I felt guilty. I felt like it's a hard thing to be around me. And at the same time, I could feel how this thought is infiltration of this negative frequency or negative energies or these interdimensional attacks into the thought form, through the thought forms, through the beliefs. And I could feel that this is some vulnerability of mine. There's somewhere they have a hook. And I was so proud because usually you have very strong outer commentary in the head. You have a lot of negative, thoughts that usually are not your thoughts. It also feels like other person is commenting on this. And I cleaned that up a lot. I was so proud that I actually cleaned my way of being. I cleaned my vulnerabilities pretty strongly. I was impressed that they didn't have so much to hook on me. But this got me. So I literally asked myself, where do I have fear here? Where is my fear? Because fear is that hook they have. And then my body immediately responded to this question. And I was very kind of contracted and tensed. I have to be strong mama now. I have a baby, sick baby in my arms who is very fragile and on the edge of make it or break it kind of in this life. And under that mama bear strength, I could tap into massive, massive grief, massive, massive fear to love so deeply, massive vulnerability to be so fully with an open heart. And the grief part was about, what if I can't protect the way I want? What if I can't control the situation of these beautiful, pure animals that I want? Because loving something or someone you can't fully protect requires really deep vulnerability. And this is what was for me like the big aha moment. This is where they have a grip. This is where the fear lives. In the grief underneath the strength. In the fear to allow myself to feel that enormous love and to be touched by this, even if that means massive grief and guilt and heart pain. And this is why most of us, we don't allow ourselves to go into that full enormous love we have, because we're so afraid to feel the pain that deep love can bring. And this is where I realize my fear of love, to love deeply, is where I'm not sovereign yet. This is the part that feels trapped, the part that just loves and is scared. And I'm sharing this because often when we think, oh, well, our fears, our vulnerabilities are very different fears, like fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of all kind of, things that we feel like it's something wrong. We're, doing something wrong. We're afraid of something wrong. But actually very often not fully allowing yourself to feel the enormous love you are and you have, the creativity, the beauty, the delight you have inside, the joy becomes your vulnerability, becomes a hook for interdimensional attacks. Because you repress that part, you're afraid to express and claim that part. And I want to give this twist, this angle, because the way we often approach our heart and our love is, I want to protect it, especially from these negative frequencies, negative energies. But that's exactly why I'm sharing this story, because protecting your heart can also be doing harm for yourself. This is where you shoot yourself in the foot, and this is where you open the window for those negative energies to squeak in and do more harm to you. Staying with open heart, staying in the discomfort, staying in a deep feels you have, deep emotions, intense emotions. Staying vulnerable actually is the safest thing you can do for yourself. Even in these weird circumstances, in this energetic war. And I could feel how my system, how my nervous system was in this constant war. Even I was sitting inside the house, it was quiet. My baby was sleeping. Everything, there was nothing happening that was dangerous. It was absolutely safe. But energetically, I could feel how my nervous system is at war. how it's fighting this energetic war. So then I decided to stay with that vulnerability in the midst of the darkness around me, in the midst of things I cannot control. Stay soft, stay with a soft heart. And one of the favorite questions that I usually ask myself and helps me to stay in the softness and the capacity and switch from scarcity towards abundance and beauty, from dysregulation to regulation. I'll give you the secret. It's my favorite question to ask. It swaps me out immediately to different states. And the question I usually ask, like in this moment where everything feels very intense, is there some beauty that I'm not seeing? Is there something precious in this situation? Is there something beautiful in this situation that I'm not noticing because I'm so into the intense survival situation? Can I see the beauty even when I'm sitting in the mud? And how can I hold both ends? Like the intensity of situation and the expansion, the creativity, the goodness, the appreciation, the love. Because I immediately noticed how some part of me looked into this capacity in a very linear way. Like, okay, so for the next 10 days, with all her critical case and healing part, I have to postpone everything. I have to postpone all my expansion, all my creativity work, because that requires softness, right? That requires different state. Like there is like creativity state and there is like organizational mundane state where almost requires different brain. And then immediately answer came, I have to learn to hold both parts of me. And it doesn't have to be either or. It can be and. And that's what capacity is often, and. How can we learn to hold both ends? In this case, those two parts of me were what I call my liberator frequency, my liberator identity, where I just move through life like a butterfly. I just go with my care and love and my deep present focus. I do my magic. I kind of recalibrate fiercely what's needed, and then I move on. I move to the next thing. So I have very non-traditional way of relating with people, with life, with like commitment in that regards. So there's a part of me who needs just to be so liberated and free to move. And then with this situation, and by the way, at this point I have now the months and the fourth cat that I'm healing weeks after weeks, months after months. So the other part of me felt trapped into mundane, trapped into traditional roles, trapped into mama who needs to take care of her babies and heal their sickness. And, just trapped into that, putting the injection, giving antibiotics, cleaning the poop, checking the poop, that kind of very mundane part of me. And it's almost like those two opposite parts couldn't breathe, and it can be just one or another. It's like my liberator, my healer, my magical part of me, it had to be postponed again for another week. And then I stopped and questioned, like, what would it feel to hold both parts of me at the same time? Like, what would it feel not to choose one or another, but like and this can be and this can be at the same time as this intense situation, and also the magic and beauty of life and appreciation of what's already happening, the mundane and practical life and magical life and creativity and expansion. And I'm telling you, all of us have that very singular linear approach to this. No matter the situation, similar situation you maybe encounter, maybe not with animals, but maybe sick children or sick partner or sick parents that you have to take care. And that feeling of depletion a little bit, of caring while your life has to be on pause. So I let myself for both parts to breathe. And what happened, like literally all the emotions had to be felt, all spectrum of me, with all the parts could feel and have a voice. And I really allowed myself that part of me that felt trapped in the mundane and caring, responsible mother, like, this like strong woman kind of thing. I allowed her to collapse. I allowed her to complain. I allowed her to be tired. I allowed her to be trapped. I allowed her to feel what she feels. I allowed her to be tired. And I allowed her to be at the capacity, or like depleted of the capacity. And she literally just needed to breathe. She just really needed like just to let go all that intensity and resistance to whatever was moving there. And suddenly my heart opened even more. And suddenly I could tap into that liberator frequency even more liberated way for myself, for my heart, for whatever I see around. And I could move even more freely. And then suddenly I could feel the love even deeper. Because before I didn't allow this voice, this part of me to speak, because I would choose my cats in the instant second over and over again. It's not even a question. I wouldn't choose them. Like, they are my family. And I know not everyone understands the way I relate to animals, but I meet more and more people who understands and also share and role model this different relating to nature and animals, and understanding they are not second grade. They are not just nice to have thing, the pet, the not my problem, or just decoration of my house or the toy. They are sentient beings. They are high frequency beings of this world that we're here to protect and nourish. They are vulnerable beings in the hands of humans, right? They are part of this very alive, high frequency nature world that we have to respect. We have to help to flourish. It's our responsibility to do that, or to do the harm and ignorance, especially when it comes in our face. And those animals literally are around me, and it's not even a question for me. I wouldn't choose them. So for me, it was even very hard to allow that part of like, I'm tired, I'm depleted, to be in this. I can't even allow myself to say I'm trapped. But that's also part of the love. Love is not just butterfly and roses. Love is also the grief, the pain, the numbness, because we care so deeply and we don't know how to hold it, the anger. This is just very deep care and love on the other side of the coin, on the other side of the spectrum, right? Not like wrapped in the paper, but as a real life. And I actually wanted to share this with you as the real life, what it takes to walk with life and through life with an open heart. So it's not always just, the magical world and the butterfly and roses and delight. It's this part too. And if you don't embrace this part too, it's like a spectrum. You cannot access the magic, the beauty, and delight at the same way. Like it's the spectrum. Like, deeper you go into, let's say, that more tense and intense spectrum of emotions and protection of your heart, deep, like, as far as you can go there, as far you can also allow the joy and the happiness and the peace and the magic and the freedom. How far and deep you allow and go in one side informs how far you can go on the other side in the emotions. So then I revert again to that question. What is the beauty I'm not seeing? And when I went through all this process with myself, I could feel how I will remember this week, this experience forever, because it did crack my heart even more open. It did help me to bond with my baby even more. And I call it my baby because it does feel like my baby. They are so conscious. We're so deeply connected. And they are very, very like babies. Those who have kittens, you know. You know that feeling when you overcome some challenges, some difficult struggles in your relationship with your partner, with your family, with yourself. And then you come on the other side and you appreciate that even more because you realize how much it taught you. Like the good stuff never taught me as much as all kind of challenging stuff. It really got me to the core and clean stuff that the good, amazing stuff, the successes never did. And you know, the most amazing part was that this beautiful, sweet, angelic kitten looks at me now, and now it's already fourth day that we are recovering. And she has such enormous love. She has so much gratitude. She has so much joy. Like she also reclaimed and purified some heaviness, and she just reconnected like a mirror of me, reconnected with life so much deeper. She is so full of life, and she runs around like she just discovered this beautiful world and so full of joy. And she runs back to me and she expresses that gratitude of, I know you care for me. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for reacting and responding so fast. It's like, you are my human. And I'm getting emotional again. But animals know, even when you do all this intervention, which is so hard for me to do sometimes, because love of the body, intervention of the body is one of the hardest things for me to hold capacity for. But all the animals I had to rescue and heal, they all somehow knew, always knew. And I talked about this with my friend who has animal shelter, and she also said the same. Somehow they always know. Even you take them to operation, even you take for the in the clinic that they've never been, and it's do all these, tests and blood. Oh my goodness, needles, and they become the most collaborative beings because they know somewhere you try to help them. And they are so appreciative after. So like seeing Layla like this now is like, whoa, my goodness. Like this is the gift. We found love in the weirdest place. And in a way, I feel quite grateful. Maybe not the right word, but thankful for this very intense encounter with interdimensional attacks and these negative energies trying to like find the hook, the hole in me, because they showed me where I didn't claim myself fully yet. The part of me that didn't feel fully sovereign. The part of me who loves so, so deeply and is just scared. And I don't know who needed to hear this. Thank you for listening to this till the end. But I felt I really wanted to share what touches my heart on a daily basis and what it means to live a life with extrasensory heart. And maybe that gives permission for you as well, for your heart to breathe more. Maybe permission for your fear to love so deeply to come forward and to realize that actually allowing it is the safest place to be, the biggest protection you can have. And this is also the story and example what it is to be in your soft power, into gentle self-leadership, where you have capacity to hold bigger life, to hold all spectrum of life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the most beautiful and magical, and also the most painful. Because one thing I'm learning about protecting my heart and not protecting my heart is that our heart is one of the strongest muscle and organ there is. It's been through so much, it can hold so much, and actually it's most suffocating when we don't allow it to be free and to breathe fully in the spectrum it needs to breathe. I also want to thank so much for my community and the RiseWows participants that I shared all this journey, and I actually asked and allowed them to support me in this difficult time. And it was so overwhelming in the care I received and the support I received. I didn't expect that. And you know, what I learned in all these attacks and all these most difficult times as a sensitive being, like where I dissociate, where I feel like numbed out or desensitized, love and connection always brings me back. And this is where those negative influences don't have a chance to stand against the love and caring, deeply, genuinely caring connection between the beings. Think about, why do you feel so lonely and you want to disconnect and hide and not to connect when you go through struggle times? Because this is where those negative influences, negative energies pushing you towards, because they know their biggest fear, their biggest antidote, where they lose, is the love and connection. So I want to leave you with a question. Where are you afraid to love more, to love deeper? Where do you feel you try to control and be stronger? And what the softening there would look like for you? What is your story about your fear of deeper love? And now give yourself a moment and feel your body. Close your eyes and let this information, this episode, go through your body, anchor in your body. Let it feel how it touches you and what sensations it brings up.